Hey, welcome in. I'm Coach Hapa from the DJCoach.com. Today, we are going to be covering a really important technique, which is changing tempo. So, you might be able to mix between songs that are within the same tempo range, like 120 to 124, 124 to 128. But what happens when you want to switch it up completely? How do you actually do that? I'm going to show you how we can do that today with effects and also a little bit of scratching. So let's jump in and let's start working off of this T7. All right, so today we are using a track. These are both tracks that are available through Hercules. So this one right here comes preloaded with Juice. This is House Volume 1, I think is what it's called. Yeah, House Volume 1. And then this one is called Urban Mystery. And this was from a gamer influence pack from Hercules. So if you don't know, well, now you know. Like you can go to you can go to Hercules.com. There's a whole area where you would create a member login. It's free, and then you would have access to all of these music packs that you can use royalty free and be able to mix with those tracks. Now you'll actually download the MP3s and mix using that. Some of you are already probably using streaming services, so like Beatport Link, BeatSource, maybe Tidal, SoundCloud Go, Qobuz that you've got logged in to your Juice software. Maybe you're using music through that, or maybe you already have an MP3 collection, or you continue to build up an MP3 collection through subscribing to a digital DJ record pool, and that's where you're getting new music from. Either way, I want you to know there are resources, and the music is actually the most important part of this transition. So you want to try to find something when you're transitioning from, let's say, higher tempo to lower tempo. You'd like to find something that has what I like to refer to as a cold start. So it doesn't just have an 8-bar instrumental section. In this case, I actually found this track that starts with this, but the volume is also pretty low. So I'm not going to bring it in there. Where I'm going to bring it in is actually off of this. So I could either bring it in from here, which is kind of cool, right? So it's got this break sound. In fact, I'm going to set a hot cue. So as I'm holding it where I want to be, I'm going to go ahead and set a hot cue. So having that sound can be really helpful. And this is what I would refer to as a cold start. So this has a sound that it is, and then the beat hits. This is going to be helpful for our transition. On the other side, this is just 128 beats per minute. What is it, 124? 128 beats per minute. Right. So the section of this track is also going to matter too. So I wouldn't probably switch this right before it drops, right? Like as this continues to build, like here, let me jump ahead a little bit. As this track is building, I'm like, oh, here we go. That's not a good transition, right? Not a good transition at all. So what I want to do is I want to be able to create some space here. Okay, so with the effects, I'm here on the echo effect. That's in my third slot. With the knob, I can move the amount of all of them. And this is actually going to be the parameter. So if I go all the way to the right, it's going to give me a 4/4, which is actually a full bar or 16 beats when it comes to this echo. So listen to this. Right, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a full bar. Now, if I move this and I make it a, let's make it a, what says 1/4. This is technically a quarter of a bar or a quarter of a measure, which means that it's one beat. So when I turn the echo on this, 1, 1, 1, 1, right? So that would be 1. So if you're used to using any other software and the effects are in terms of beats, this would be technically the equivalent of 1, which you would see. So instead of it being, it's not a quarter beat, it's a quarter measure. And then if I change this and let's make it an eighth, an eighth would be an eighth of a measure or an eighth of a bar, which would mean then that this is a half beat. Check it out. So it's playing the half beat. And if I move it a little bit more to the left and I go to 1/16th, that technically is a 16th of a bar or a 16th of a measure, which would mean that it is a quarter. So hopefully that helps. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this actually on, well, I'll play with it. I'll either use, I like using either the full 4 or probably actually what would be 8th, which would be a 1, or a quarter, or the quarter would be a 1, or the 8th would be a half. And so usually that's the way I like my echo. Great. Let's now do it. Right? So let's try this. So again, this isn't going to sound as good if I just bring it in from here. I could also bring it in from here instead of off of, or I could time it so that as I hit the break on this, I'm also hitting that. And so that could be one way to do it. But again, I really like using the scratch. I think the scratch is going to really enhance what it is that we're going to do. So a couple things before we actually do the transition with the scratch is as we look at the actual platter. In fact, let me get a little bit closer so you can see it. You'll see there's this line here. This line and that line are both at 12 o'clock. So this is actually a really great visual cue. So if I know that I'm at the very beginning of the sound here, like let's put it on this right here, the yellow one. So first I'm going to cue this up, get the record lined up straight. Then I'm going to jump to the hot cue. So right now I'm on this hot cue. Trying to bring that line back every time. So again, if I want to get it set here, you'll notice that this is not the sound anymore because the song is now further into the space. I go ahead and click on the yellow mark again, my hot cue. Now, this scratch that I'm doing is a simple baby scratch. You'll notice I'm not using the crossfader at all. I'm just using my hand. So this is all I'm doing is forward and back, rhythmically on time, and then I'm releasing forward. Watch my hand. I'm releasing forward. So I'm not doing this. This is what you're not doing. I'm releasing forward. This is something good to practice. Now, some people like to have, instead of having that line at 12, some people like to have that line at 3 or that line at 9. So wherever you want that line, so let's say I want it here where the DJ coach is reading perfect vertical, and I've got my hand here, then what I'm going to do is I got this in the right space. Now I'm going to hit the hot cue so that I've reset. Concept works the same. From a visual perspective, this is probably easier because you can see this mark, and that's how it was designed. When they actually designed the controller, that's what they had in mind. So now, in fact, actually, you might be wondering, what's the other mark here? Well, the other mark is typically where this would be as if you had a needle on a record. So some people are used to that. This up and down mark, though, is a real good one and probably the easiest way to be able to set this up. So now, let's go ahead and I'm going to reset this. I'm going to put that break there instead. So I jump to this hot cue instead here. So now, when I move this, so that's technically on the 4. It's on the beat right before the 1. So 1, boom. It's almost like, or not to confuse, it would be like 4. It's like one beat before the beat comes in. So now I'm going to go here, And let's go ahead and actually do the transition. We'll do the transition this time using the scratch. Here we go. Cool. Now, I can set this up to be longer. In fact, that's what I would want. I'm going to want this to be a little bit longer, so I'm going to extend this out a little bit longer. And this time, I'm going to, instead of hitting stop, because then I get the break sound, instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the sound off. Cool. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try this. At this time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it from this yellow point. From that point there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the echo out. We're going to use a half beat echo out on this side. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to let it end. As it's ending, I'm going to be scratching and then going to bring the track in. I'm not trying to beat match them. So also keep in mind that I want to have sync off. We don't want to have beat sync on. Okay, so here we go. Let's get this queued up. Here we go. Holding my spot. I've got the volume up. Something like that. So you're going to use the scratch to be able to scratch in time with what's happening, and then the scratch is actually going to fill the transition. Now, how long that is, that's kind of up to you, and that's for you to feel this out a little bit. But you can see that you can use the scratch to be able to transition between the actual tracks. Now, this takes practice. This also takes having, again, the right songs and the right example. If I want it to die completely, then what I might do is take even longer, have it die completely, have the scratch here. People will be wondering, what's going on? They'll see me in control, and then I drop the song in. And that could actually create a really great moment. So this takes practice. Make sure that you practice this, because this isn't going to be something that you try for the very first time live. Like, this is something that you should definitely practice. The technique itself is the same no matter what the tracks are. However, it is important to get comfortable with these different movements, like triggering the effects, having the record ready to go, having the volume all the way up, being on time with your scratching, making sure that it's rhythmically sound. Now the track ends and you bring the track in. There you go. There you go. So we've got more tips, tricks, help, lessons, all of the above here at the DJ Academy. A lot more on the DJControl Inpulse T7. For those of you who own this controller as well, I would highly encourage you to take advantage of the free access to the DJControl Inpulse T7 course that we have on the DJ Coach. It is a DJ challenge. It's going to help you put together your first mix or your best mix yet using this controller. I highly encourage it. There's a link below as well, and I'll see you guys on the next one.